wow, for somebody to say that as a broker, and say that, but let's break that down.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they can sell it on their own, and yeah, they don't need us. But guess what happens is they believe because they're looking at the Zillow price, and that's what it is. That's the price. So they get that or whatever, or they get lower, and they're like, oh, no commission, no this or that. Don't need us to sell it. But what just happened? You got screwed because you left 50 grand on the table because you had no idea what the real price was.
Yeah.
You listened to a computer-generated algorithm that they've tried to pay somebody $1 million to figure out where it's screwed up, and so but they didn't seek professional advice, and therefore they didn't pay any commission, but they left $50,000.
When you look at the goals, like the goal is to sell the house. Okay, you could sell the house for $20. You want to do that? Like anybody could do that. But what's set your goals? Break them down.
Well, that was the whole thing. It's like and so my takeaway was like, look, let's find a professional. So I always advocate, let's go find somebody to give you lessons. On top of that, let's find somebody let's go find a licensed realtor. Let's go find not only a licensed captain, but somebody that has been to school to learn to teach. I taught the police academy for 20 years. I came out of there because none of the stuff that I was taught in the police department or in the military segued into the private world. Like I couldn't give you a certification after completing the course because of obvious reasons. So I went with U.S. Powerboating, which is a division of U.S. Sailing, which is run by the United States Olympic Committee. So with that, like you're vetted, you've learned how to teach in a very systematic way of these are the benchmarks that you have to perform. You have to be satisfactory at them to be able to complete the course, not something that somebody made up. So again, using a licensed real estate broker, not just somebody that said, "Hey, like I had a Apple Jacks box and I'm ready to do it," or I stayed at the Holiday Inn, so I'm ready to go. Here we go.
But hey, an Apple Jacks box,
something,
An Apple Jacks box will still run you about $600K in South Tampa.
The Holiday Inn, I use that to express. I use it all the time, and hardly anyone gets that joke.
You gotta be a certain age, Buster, to roll that one out.
I'll say something, and I'm like, and I didn't even say the Holiday Inn Express. I'll say that you know me well enough, it's like it doesn't matter if they get it or not.
As long as I make myself laugh.
Absolutely,
I tell my wife
good.
that all the time. She just looks at me, and I'm like, look, I know I'm funny. Like you're just pretending I'm not. Like it's okay.
My son gets on to me for laughing at my own jokes too much. And I'm like, dude, you figured out life. If you get to that point where you find yourself funny and you don't need anyone else to.
My son does the same thing. He just looks at me and he's just like, you can't possibly be my father. I'm like, yeah, well, I am.
I think it's a prerequisite. I'm not sure if the Coast Guard lists it, but I think you have to have somewhat of a sense of humor to get a captain's license.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, you have to very much have a sense of humor.
Because you cannot make up half the stuff we see on the water.
Oh my gosh, no. And again, like in our discussion of how did I come to decide like to do boating lessons, it was just watching what goes on out there. And I mean, we all watch All Over Inlet, we all watch Boat Zone, but like just go right over here to the Gandy boat ramp, pull up a chair, pull up a lawn chair, pull up an umbrella, and like sit out there on the weekend,
watch a couple of the jet skiers,
and watch the show. And again, it's not like I'm not knocking the people, but like nobody has ever taught them. Like nobody went through a process of going, this is what you do. This is where you start. This is what you do next. This is how it's supposed to work out in the end. Like they just go, hey, let's see what happens. And mom's screaming and crying, dad's screaming and crying. Kids are like, I'm never coming to do this again. And like so that
I've learned many lessons at a boat ramp. But getting started, I really used to love taking some time off when I was getting everything going before I had become a charter captain initially, before everything took the turn it did. I had the opportunity to just save up a little bit of money, and I was fishing during the weekdays all the time. And so fortunately, fishing during the weekdays, when you look like a jackass because you messed something up at the boat ramp, at least there's not many people to see you do it.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit of relief when it comes to that. But yeah, I agree. I mean, having those boating lessons and things are absolutely just paramount. And for another way to look at it as well, if you're a parent, say you're looking at, hey, I want to get my kids out of the water because it's part of me growing up. Being on the water, whether boating or fishing, it does something to a person that they keep for their entire life, and it's a positive thing. The parents may say, hey, I want to do this for kids, because let's face it, if your kids are fishing, they're not going to be able to afford to do drugs. Because fishing tackle is way too expensive.
Fishing rods and bait and gas is at a, you know.
Oh my God.
On a boat, the acronyms break out another 1,000.
That's
it.
it. That's
That's what
exactly
boat stands for.
But it's great for those parents that they have the opportunity, if they were saying, hey, I want to put together a good gift for somebody. Well, that's a perfect example. You can save somebody from having those mishaps on the boat by simply having someone like yourself that has experience, that has a curriculum, that has the ability to teach them something, and they're going to carry it on for their entire life, and they're going to be able to teach their children. And so I think it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's
and this is
service.
where I want to step on that also is we had the tragedy that happened just this past week of the kids that were out on the boat and sadly passed away. And again,
It's
we talk about like I don't know all the details of exactly what happened. I haven't peeled back the onion to see the investigation and things like that. But here's what we talk, and it's just like we talked about. Like when the day's beautiful and there's nothing going on, the seas are calm and everything's perfect. That's an easy day. What I'm teaching you for, and what we're training you for, and why you use professionals is when something starts to go wrong.
Yep.
It's the decisions that are made in an instant because you've already been trained, you've already been taught. You're ready for this to happen. You're anticipating like for a realtor. You're anticipating like there's a lien somewhere and I have to go find it. You're waiting for something to go wrong with the rod and reel because you know what? I'm gonna take that one out of service and I got another one already set. You're already ready to solve the problem before the problem ever comes. Without that training, you just don't have it, and that's really that's my advocacy is like let's do the training as opposed to having to look back at the tragedy and then trying to figure out what went wrong. Let's prevent it from the start.
Preventing something is very, very, very important when it comes to that. We talk about preventative moves on the show all the time when we're talking to our listeners. And one thing that we always tell people, if you're going to fish, I would say, as large of an estuary as Tampa Bay is, you can be out by the Skyway, Port Manatee, and you've got a decent amount of space in between yourself and land. And especially around Pinellas Point, in that area, it gets really nasty out there, which you can on certain weatherways, you know that. I mean, I would have to say it's just as good as offshore. And so whether you're inshore or offshore, I tell people you need to get something like an EPIRB. You need to have an EPIRB. And even better for if you're going to be an offshore individual, get something Garmin makes it's called an inReach device. Absolutely fantastic. It'll allow for you.
For the viewers.
So the EPIRB, it's a personal locator
myself.
beacon. Well, no. So that's a very good question.
Let's explain to Buster first, and the rest of y'all watch. Here we go.
It's a very good question. Again, you guys can slow me down because I know you understand a lot of this, but a lot of the folks and a lot of your listeners and viewers probably would be stumped by that as well. It's simply a small portable electronic device that is triggered and sends out a beacon that says, it's a distress call beacon, and it's activated by water. There are ones that are push button, but usually what we tell people, there's one called a PLB, a personal locator beacon, that's smaller. You can put it in your bag or on your person or strap it to your life vest, etc. But there's also one inside the vessel, and that is usually in the center console, and it's going to be triggered by water. Once that thing gets wet, it's going to go off. And what that does is it allows for emergency responders to be able to get to your vessel, to get to you if you become separated from your vessel, and it's just a smart thing to do. When you look at the amount of money that it costs to go boating, what the hell is another couple of $100 on something that could save your life?
Oh my goodness!
I know.
I want to go with you
now
guys
they have
if I
them.
ever go out.
Yeah, and now they have them is if you don't have the Garmin setup, the actual system itself has a wristband. So like for your kids, boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
I think it's usually 4 or 5 that come with the set. Everybody gets one. So even if you do happen to get separated from the boat itself, like you still have a beacon that gives you your personal location.
Technology has been very good to us when it comes to the marine industry and hobbies, because we simply, through the improvement of anti-water penetration, waterproofness, the IPX ratings, etc., You're having so many more of these items that you can have. They're costing less money in order to even get I mean, you have satellite on the iPhones now, and I always tell people, they're like, oh, I have satellite on my iPhone now, I don't need that. No, that's just another redundancy. We always tell people boating, I mean,
Redundancy is the key.
yeah, you want redundancies, because something, if anything is certain, something is going to fail on a boat. Saltwater and mechanics and electronics, they simply do not use.
Not at all.
You guys will love this story. When I grew up fishing with my dad in the Alabama Point, Perdido area.
Perdido Key's fantastic.
Absolutely, that's where we learned. And
Alabama, baby.
He would fish for speckled trout, redfish. I mean, he used to go. There was a famous guy named David McKeithen that would teach people how to fish. You fish with a treble hook, live shrimp. And when they got to the end of the current, you know, you pull them up because it didn't look natural. These shrimp were smart. But anyway, you know, my dad would always have a checklist at the when he would be packing up the boat, and it would just be right there by all his gear. It was the checklist, and I learned in my life, because I'm not someone that carries. I go with nothing, you know. And so it's like I'll show up and be like, oh damn, the bait, you know. So it's like, but it's so important to do, and that's what we do in real estate. In my life, I've learned how important, whatever you're doing, to have that checklist. We do it in real estate, to where I have a customized homesearch.com. It's a form, a Google form that says beds, bath, beyond, but it asks all the questions, and it makes sure that I don't forget. That I'm not the idiot that calls back and says, hey, did you want to do, garage?
Yeah.
They're like, you have to call me back to ask me.
Right.
It makes sure that I don't forget those questions, and I can go beyond that, but it also shows that, okay, he's the professional, he's got a process. You know, he's not just he's not an order taker, letting them tell me the order. I've got a process, I'm walking them through a checklist. Just that little shift makes a huge difference. But I learned that from my dad from fishing.
Yeah, we use it on the fire engine. We use it on the ambulance because you don't want to roll up. The Murphy's Law happens. You heat everything. You got to make sure it's running, it's lubed, it's gas, everything.
I mean, of any people to be with today, I mean, how beautiful, and I appreciate you coming. But I got a fireman, a realtor, got Zach the fisherman, knows where to catch them, and obviously some safety stuff. And Captain Randy, who is like the man. Funny story with Captain Randy. Marine, all that, but I would walk to Ballast Point in the morning. I'm walking my kids, I'm like unshowered, look probably homeless half the time. I'm walking up, or whatever, and you always, of course you look at dads, and I'm like, my daughter first, so my daughter, I'm like, of course, like, anybody looks at her wrong, I'm ready to hurt somebody, but you always size people up, of course. I mean, I'm a southern guy from Alabama, we always sizing people up. And I see this dude walking by. I mean, he's got his covered up, but the dude is like ripped and huge. And I like look at him and I'm like, Buster, that dude would break you in half. Don't piss that guy off.
Only if you get a cheeseburger in your pocket and you're not sharing it. That means you're gonna have problems.
But
Other than that, we're good.
Ends up being the nicest guy you'd ever meet. And what a score for us to have you have such personality and such a good dude, and you exude goodness. And I appreciate you coming on here. And
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's awesome. It's great. It's great. We want to get y'all some boating lessons and some fishing people. And so Zach, tell us about the fishing show, your history, how you got started. Dying to hear it, buddy.
Well, I started like a lot of you out there fishing with my father, my brother from a young age. It was something that I had always enjoyed as a child, and I found as I'd gone through high school and everything, I kind of parted ways with the hobby, and I got to a point in my life where I was just kind of like a lot of you maybe out there wondering just what the hell am I doing? And I simply was not happy with the work I was doing. I was not happy with the way my life was going. And I'm thinking, best case scenario, I continue to work hard, do well, make a pile of money, and I can enjoy fruits of my labor for 5 years, 10 years, and drop over dead. Because it happens to people every day. It's kind of morbid to think about, but it happens. And so really what that did is it kind of lit this spark inside me and figure out, what do you really want? And I think it's something that everyone can ask themselves. What do you really want? And for me, I absolutely love those memories of fishing with my father and my brother. So I got the absolute insane idea that I wanted to become a charter captain. And so I took the time, I saved some money, and I decided to just fish, and I fished every day, fished hard, probably every day for maybe 2 years straight. Which, I mean, you know, when you're 250 plus days on the water, you learn a thing or two. And it got to the point where I never went into it wanting to. I had the opportunity to learn from so many really talented captains in the Tampa Bay area, and so many talented people in the industry, like Mike Mahoney, T.A. Mahoney and Company. They've been a staple of the Tampa community for, you know, nearly 100 years with T.A. Mahoney and Company down on Highway 60. He was a fantastic mentor of mine, and he gave me all the advice I would ever need. And coincidentally, he's one of the reasons I ended up getting into radio later on. But I did what I needed to do. I got my captain's license. I started running trips. It went really well. I started to take pictures of the things that I was seeing on, you know, the water, because it was just cool. I loved it that much. I enjoyed it. And the social media side of it started to pick up, and I really evolved my hobby. I started to get into offshore fishing, because just like any fisherman, why not figure out a way to blow away more money on fishing, you know? So that being said, I had gotten involved with a community that I had cultivated with a friend of mine, and he and I, we started what became Tampa Offshore Fishing. It was a small, humble community, which has now grown to about 33,000 members across the Tampa Bay area, and it is a absolutely wonderful hub for information, entertainment, and just getting on there and sharing your catch, going through and kind of looking at what's going on. It's something to scroll through at work. Yeah, coconut shrimp.
Well, I mean, look at this.
I'm trying to listen to you, and
we have
fighting the
Steven,
distraction.
Steven Staten here with Sunshine State Advertising, the social
is
media
gorgeous.
guru
This
for
is gorgeous.
hospitality and beyond,
I gotta get
serving us
That's amazing.
a meal here, man. Wow.
That's what I'm here for. From,
Oh yeah.
from start to finish, baby. I got you.
And he's the reason that I know Zach. So from an influencer dinner at Hula Bay.
Okay.
So
I have one more dish I'm gonna bring out.
Cool.
And then you guys should be square. You guys anything else? Everybody good? Everybody good?
I think it's really hard to complain about what we've got going on right here.
absolutely,
Right, guys?
absolutely.
Cool.
I got everything I need.
All right, let's get back to it. Well,
And I know you got to run soon, so go ahead and dive in.
absolutely.
Dive in.
but yeah, guys, it's really at the end of the day, the rest is history. We became popular on social media, and we've been very fortunate to have so many great partners that we get to work with. Decided to get into radio, talked to my friend Mike Mahoney, and I really enjoyed guest appearing on his radio show. And I had another show that I had briefly worked on with a woman named Misty Wells that does a lot in the fishing community here. And we had a show that we were hosting together, and Misty was very into the full spectrum of outdoors, turkey hunting, etc., deer hunting, and things that I enjoy, but I don't have the passion to have, and I don't feel I'm versed enough on those subjects to have an actual show on those. So I was just kind of like, Misty, I love the idea of doing this, but I think I'm going to kind of go in opposite direction. And she was really nice about it. She understood that I'm just that type of person. I'm going to be honest. If I don't want to do something the way it is, I change it.
But you should.
Yeah, 1025 The Bone approached them with the idea of the show. We started working together. Had my good friends at Rivard Buick GMC over here in Tampa. We started together. They were the #1 GMC Sierra dealer in the state. We are now the #2 GMC dealer overall in the country.
Awesome.
We've grown together over the past 6 years, and I couldn't thank them enough for their support and all the sponsors that we work with that have allowed us to do what we do and pay for it, because it should be told in the beginning I was paying for everything myself. And when you're talking about owning your own show and doing this and that, it's not something you want to be paying out of pocket for. So I'm very thankful that we have so many wonderful sponsors that we get to work with. And I think the most amazing part of the whole thing is the fact that Oh yeah, baby.
Perfect.
That's beautiful.
And
Steven
on that-
brought out
on-
some beautiful mahi tacos, it looks
There you
like.
On that end about don't want to be paying for it, you're telling Noah about the flood, basically. There.
Exactly.
That's where we are right now. We're paying for it, but luckily we have people like Steven that's hooking stuff up.
Absolutely. Well, you know, Buster, to put it short and sweet, you know, I could talk about this being the passion. I could talk about this all day, and you know, probably bore, you know, or fascinate the folks that are listening. But all in all, I'd have to say that what this did is I took that initial risk, and I asked myself that question: what do you want to do with your life, and how do you want to live your life? And I put the pedal to the metal. I took the risk, and fortunately it paid off greatly, and I'm very blessed to be able to live a lifestyle that is everything I've ever wanted. And I would never tell kids, you know, you can be a charter captain and this will happen. A lot of it was a happy accident. A lot of it was, you know, dedication, making sure that you do that hard work when you think, oh, this isn't going to work out. I would say the lesson, if anyone can learn a lesson from what I've done and what I've been doing, is believe in yourself and ask yourself what really makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter what your career is, what you do. If you can't wake up in the morning and say, hey, this is a very beautiful life that I'm so thankful to be living, and with the people in it, the places I go, and then you can make changes. You can change. Any of you listening out there, any of you watching this, you can absolutely make your life better by just saying, hey, I'm doing things differently. And yeah, I get to meet great people like you all, and you'd be amazed once you start to take those steps to change how your life works. You're going to be aligned with all of the most amazing people. That it's really a great experience. Yeah, it's great having the privilege to work with you guys. I appreciate you taking the time and thinking of me to, you know, appear on your show. You guys do great content. Yeah, it's just, don't take life too seriously, I would tell people, but at the same time, give it help. I mean, make sure that don't leave it all out on the field, as they say.
Are you with the blower? Give us a minute.
It's probably Steven.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Steven over there sabotaging. All right, well, Captain Randy, and we'll come back to you because we're going to hang out or whatever, but I know he's got an appointment to be at.
Yep.
So, Captain Randy, tell us about Blue Line Boating and your story, how you got started.
So, Blue Line Boating is sort of a tribute to my past career. So I was very fortunate to become part of the.
Way you can get him to wait like 10 minutes.
Oh,
The circular saw is
yeah,
awesome to keep up
yeah,
with.
sorry.
I mean, we're
Okay,
almost up.
no, you're good. I'll tell him. I have to head out though, so obviously whatever you guys want to use, just leave here,
Brother, thank
and
you
then
so much.
I'll get everything cleaned up. I'll somebody clean it up.
Sure.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Zach, as always, bro. Nice
you.
meeting you.
Bye.
Again, Steven Staten, Sunshine
Steven,
State
how you doing?
Advertising.
Oh, man.
Bye, guys. Text
Thanks,
me
buddy.
if you
Thanks,
need
buddy.
anything.
All right, we'll do. Thank you.
Yeah, big thank you to Hula Bay for taking the time to host us all. To,
Absolutely.
you know, sit here and talk and enjoy delicious food.
And this is what we do every day.
That's it. It really
If
is.
people really knew, like, this really is what, like, the day consists of. Like, we go someplace nice, we hop on the boat, we do some lessons, we catch some fish, we sell some homes, and then we show up here and we tell stories about it. We talk about it, and I think part of it is, like, especially I know from where I came from, at the end of the day, once the mission was done, or whatever, at the day's end, like, you kind of set back and you kind of did a hot wash on the day, like, hey, what worked, what, you know, not only what worked, but what didn't work. And not so much from a standpoint of what didn't work as a blame as what didn't work and how do we improve? How
Exactly.
do we improve?
What did
how do
we
we improve
overlook
on that?
that we can
How do
now
we
focus
make
on?
that better? And again, like, I'm a big advocate of, like, I'm not about finger pointing. Like, that doesn't solve the problem. That doesn't solve the problem. What solves the problem is identifying, like, this was an issue. How do we make sure that doesn't happen again to whatever person's in charge of that section or whatever that day? How do we solve that problem and keep the train going? Because I think with that finger pointing slows the momentum, because then it's basically like you're pushing somebody down. Like, help them up. Like, hey, look, this is what happened. This is how we're not ever going to let that happen again. Whether it's a checklist, whether it's a lesson learned, whether it's like, hey, don't be dumb next time. Because sometimes that's just it. I'm like, hey, I didn't complete it. I failed on my task, but I'm not going to let that happen again. How do we prevent it from going? How do we
put emotions where only logic needs to be at?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're absolutely right. We talked about in the preparation for the podcast that some things that we did, and then it's like, okay, but we made like we wouldn't have this if Jonathan hadn't scheduled it. You know, it may not be perfect. Like he thought you were with him at first, and he's hearing me just spatter, and he's writing as
it
quick
is so
as he
hard
can.
to catch everything.
And it's like the mind of an ADD person. You're trying to just like organize, and you have this like just stuff. And so for you to come last minute like that's awesome. And then, but we discussed exactly that. It was like, okay, we're happy we did it.
Yeah.
But we're like, we're going to learn from it as long as we learn. I said, and my comment was, if we're 10 months from now making the same mistakes, then you're going to see somebody like.
Now it's a problem because you're not learning from the lessons. But like even this worst case scenario, like let's say like none of the cameras are on, nothing is working today. Oh, okay. Guess what? We do this again next week, and we have somebody check and make sure the cameras are working.
Because we're doing the same thing, either camera's rolling or not.
Yeah, it's going to be the same
And
story.
that's why I keep walking over. I'm like, are we going?
And
Are we
guess
going?
what? By design, the podcast has enough guests on it that are the type of people that if the shit hits the fan, like I told Jonathan, I said, the cool thing is I know both of them well, and like they don't give a shit. I'm like, they're cool, easy going, and like as long as it's not a shit show, they're going to be like, hey,
That's having professionals.
Exactly.
And I'm not like,
Please let's not call me a professional. For the love of God.
absolutely are.
But this is what we do. Like just because you're a professional doesn't mean like you're a prude. Doesn't mean like we're not going to cut the fool. We're going to have fun. Like at the end of the day, like if we're not laughing, like I'm pretty sure like one of the only reasons my wife loves me is because I'm funny. And she looks at me and laughs all the time. She's like, nah, that may be a laugh of disgust or maybe a laugh of like, I really can't believe I made that decision. But here we are, and that's part of what you said, like professionals, when things go bad is where the key comes in. Because we just pick up the pieces and go, hey, oh, here we go. Like we got shrimp tails. We can go fish with a shrimp tail, right? Like we forgot bait. We got shrimp tails.
Makes it that more satisfying.
So when we do bring one on board and go, hey, look, like the story's better because I caught this fish. I caught this fish.
Where did I come from?
On a
And then
shrimp
where did I
tail.
go?
Yeah.
We didn't have any bait. We caught the bait, and we caught these different fish because of the bait we were using. It was like we slayed them.
It just so it's just and again, like we go back to the tragedy. Like had they had training, they potentially would have made better decisions under pressure. And that's where I think that's where I always go to. I look back at the things that I found myself in because of the training. It wasn't like I didn't have to think about it. I just reacted to the situation because I had been through so many training, so many scenarios, and like you can't create every scenario. You can't what if. Like this is the general idea. This is the general idea of what you need to be doing to solve that problem. Some of them are life and death, but it's the same thing. Like I have to solve this problem. How do I catch that bottle before it falls? How do I put this deal together? What things do I have to bring in to make the deal work? And that's because of that making that next step, taking things to that next level.
Absolutely. Are we good with that microphone? I'm just picturing my board operator at the boat.
Oh, you're straight.
Saying, hey, we need you closer to the microphone. We can't hear you.
It picks
So
up
you got
good.
that one, and you got this one here underneath all that.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, so we're pulling up.
Hey, little buddy.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's the man right there.
Breaking
One
the
thing
fourth
about-
wall.
that's
While
one
we're
thing
breaking
why
it,
I'm
can you hand me the
comfortable.
shrimp?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one thing why I'm comfortable on these.
Whatever
is
this
because
is.
I know
Critters.
Jonathan's got it taken care of.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's
Yeah,
a fireman. He's like Mr. Prepared. Like I can be me and not have to worry about
I've been
it.
yelled at
Same
enough
thing.
for it. So.
Yeah, you've been yelled at enough. Like you've been
By the fireman, not by me.
Oh, yeah.
You've had to redo it enough. You've been through the same scenario so many times. Like even to the point like tying knots, like, you know, rappelling, like we rappel out a helicopter and everything. Like, how many times do I have to, like, you're getting tired of tying the knot, but the problem is like you're complaining to your buddy, we're tying this knot again, and you're not even looking at the knot. You're tying the knot because you've done it so many times now that it's just what it happens.
Do it with gloves on. Now close your eyes. Now he's screaming at you. Now do it.
And you put a gas mask on, getting, you know, whatever it is, like, you know. So and it still happens.
That's what makes everything fun, though. I mean, at the end of the day, when you have that preparation and you do all that.
Oh, we're doing
I'll tell you what, I'll have another Corona if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'll have a Heineken, please.
Yeah, I got
Thank
you. Anything else?
I'm good.
Perfect.
Good. Okay.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Funny story, talking about like even why it pays to be trained and to do lessons and to be by the book and have processes and all that.
Hula Bay is so great.
Even when you're fishing and the shit hits the fan. We were in Pensacola one day, my buddy and I, Lee Rogers.
Awesome.
Sitting there fishing, we stop by, we're on the boardwalk, Pensacola, having a beer, storm comes in. It may have been like Blue Angels or something like that, but this storm came through that like sunk 4 or 5 boats.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
so strong for like 20, 30 minutes. And so we're sitting there at the bar and we're looking out. And we see a boat. We turned over the anchor, we didn't have chain. So the anchor was just kind of hanging directly rope. You got a chain to like put it on the ground.
I can teach you how to make that happen.
I've heard some people talk about it.
That's right.
Stand by for the next
so we're sitting
podcast.
there,
Next podcast,
we're
anchoring.
sitting there and we look and we see a boat that has come under the dock is sitting here. The boat is upside down and the bow is coming out of this side toward us.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, is that your boat?
For those of you listening and watching, that's not supposed to happen on a boat.
It's a boat. It's not a
So
submarine.
it's flipped, going under the dock. It's got a T-top. A T-top's on the ground, and the bottom is sticking up out of the ground. So we run out there. We got a couple beers, and so we run out there. You know, gonna get it out of there.
Save the day.
Save the day. You know, and I think he had tanks under there. He had like air tanks. So we're trying to get those out. But I remember getting there and trying to dislodge it, and the T-top pinned my foot on the ground. And it was like at that moment, it was like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, you and I had a job.
It was
Well,
like
you and I have a job.
yeah, that's exactly
Job
Right there,
security.
job security.
Dumbasses like me. So at that point, at least, I was like, run.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when that happens, it was just like, what are you doing? Why are you out here? It's not worth it. He had that 4-stroke on there. He actually flipped that thing over and dried out, and the engine kept running.
That's something else.
All right, guys, I got a thing I absolutely have to get.
Captain,
Absolutely
it was great talking
Good,
with you.
man.
I'm good.
You happy?
Yeah, it was such a pleasure. I look forward to seeing
Thank you
you.
very much.
Seeing
I
you
mean, with
again.
my right hand.
Yeah,
so.
no.
Blue Line Boating.
Blue Line. Thanks, guys. I appreciate
How do they
it.
get in touch with you?
BlueLineBoating.com, info.com. Catch me on Facebook, or you can hit me up on Google.
Catch him outside.
Catch me outside on the
No
water.
more Coronas.
Catch me outside on the water. No more Coronas for
Oscar's
him.
busted.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, guys. All right, we'll see you. We'll see you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my pleasure. Want to take anything with you?
No,
Sure.
I'm good. I appreciate it.
Thanks for making it happen
Yeah,
on
no,
short
no.
notice
Yep.
and everything.
Absolutely fantastic.
Next time we'll communicate just a skosh more, and
Absolutely.
we'll bring a boat, and we'll slow roll around. We'll slow roll around through the canals and have a good day with
Yes,
it.
sir.
All right. We'll have Hula Bay catering.
Absolutely.
we'll see you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hula Bay is fantastic.
Really are.
Yeah, kind of one of the things that we have in our backyard that sometimes I believe we take it for granted. It's really hard considering